Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. This is my weekly Bible reading video. If you're new here, my name is Constance and I do one of these every Friday, and I also have a live Coffee and Scriptures where we read the Bible on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time. And with that one, we are currently working our way through the New Testament. But today I am going to be reading through Leviticus chapters 9 through 13. Let's begin with prayer. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to your people Israel and to all people through your Son, Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. Amen. On the 8th day, Moshe called Aaron, his sons, and the leaders of Israel, and said to Aaron, "Take a male calf for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering, both without defect, and offer them before ADONAI. Then tell the people of Israel, take a male goat for a sin offering and a calf and a lamb, both a year old and without defect, for a burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for peace offerings to sacrifice before ADONAI. Also a grain offering mixed with olive oil, because today ADONAI is going to appear to you." They brought what Moshe had ordered before the tent of meeting, and the whole community approached and stood before ADONAI. Moshe said, "This is what ADONAI has ordered you to do, so that the glory of ADONAI will appear to you." Moshe told Aaron, "Approach the altar, offer your sin offering and burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and the people. Then present the offering of the people and make atonement for them as ADONAI ordered." So Aaron approached the altar and slaughtered the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. The sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. Then he poured out the blood at the base of the altar. But the fat, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver of the sin offering he made go up in smoke on the altar, as ADONAI had ordered Moshe. The meat and the skin were burned up completely outside the camp. Next he slaughtered the burnt offering. Aaron's sons brought him the blood, and he splashed it against all sides of the altar. They brought him the burnt offering piece by piece, and the head, and he made them go up in smoke on the altar. He washed the inner organs and the lower parts of the legs, and made them go up in smoke on top of the burnt offering on the altar. Then the people's offering was presented. He took the goat of the sin offering, which was for the people, slaughtered it, and offered it for sin, like the earlier sin offering. The burnt offering was presented, and he offered it in the prescribed manner. The grain offering was presented. He took a handful of it and made it go up in smoke on the altar, in addition to the morning's burnt offering. He slaughtered the ox and the ram. The people sacrificed as peace offerings. Aaron's sons brought him the blood, which he splashed against all sides of the altar, and the fat of the ox and of the ram, the fat tail, the fat which covers the inner organs, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver. They put the fat on the breast, and he made the fat go up in smoke on the altar. The breast and the right thigh Aaron waved as a wave offering before ADONAI, as Moshe had ordered. Aaron raised his hands toward the people, blessed them, and came down from offering the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the peace offerings. Moshe and Aaron entered the tent of meeting, came out, and blessed the people. Then the glory of ADONAI appeared to all the people. Fire came forth from the presence of ADONAI, consuming the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Chapter 10. But Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and offered unauthorized fire before ADONAI, something he had not ordered them to do. At this, fire came forth from the presence of ADONAI and consumed them, so that they died in the presence of ADONAI. Moshe said to Aaron, "This is what ADONAI said. Through those who are near me I will be consecrated, and before all the people I will be glorified." Aaron kept silent. Moshe called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, Aaron's uncle, and told them, "Come here and carry your cousins away from in front of the sanctuary to a place outside the camp." They approached and carried them in their tunics out of the camp, as Moshe had said. Then Moshe told Aaron and his sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Don't unbind your hair or tear your clothes in mourning, so that you won't die, and so that ADONAI won't be angry with the entire community. Rather, let your kinsmen, the whole house of Israel, mourn, because of the destruction ADONAI brought about with his fire. Moreover, don't leave the entrance to the tent of meeting, or you will die." because Adonai's anointing oil is on you." Adonai said to Aaron, "Don't drink any wine or intoxicating liquor, neither you nor your sons with you, when you enter the tent of meeting, so that you will not die. This is to be a permanent regulation through all your generations, so that you will distinguish between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean, and so that you will teach the people of Israel all the laws Adonai has told them through Moshe." Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar his remaining sons, "Take the grain offering left from the offerings for Adonai made by fire, and eat it without leaven next to the altar, because it is especially holy. Eat it in a holy place, because it is your and your sons' share of the offerings for Adonai made by fire. For this is what I have been ordered. The breast that was waved and the thigh that was raised, you are to eat in a clean place, you, your sons, and your daughters with you. For these are given as your and your children's share of the sacrifices of the peace offerings presented by the people of Israel. They are to bring the raised thigh and the waved breast, along with the offerings of fat made by fire, and to wave it as a wave offering before Adonai. Then it will belong to you and your descendants with you as your perpetual share, as Adonai has ordered." Then Moshe carefully investigated what had happened to the goat of the sin offering and discovered that it had been burned up. He became angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the remaining sons of Aaron, and asked, "Why didn't you eat the sin offering in the area of the sanctuary, since it is especially holy? He gave it to you to take away the guilt of the community and to make atonement for them before Adonai. Look, its blood wasn't brought into the sanctuary. You should have eaten it there in the sanctuary as I ordered." Aaron answered Moshe, "Even though they offered their sin offering and burnt offering today, things like this have happened to me. If I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been pleasing to Adonai?" On hearing this reply, Moshe was satisfied. Chapter 11. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, "Tell the people of Israel, these are the living creatures which you may eat among all the land animals. Any that has a separate hoof which is completely divided, and chews the cud. These animals you may eat, but you are not to eat those that only chew the cud or only have a separate hoof. For example, the camel, the coney, and the hare are unclean for you, because they chew the cud, but they don't have a separate hoof. While the pig is unclean for you, because although it has a separate and completely divided hoof, it doesn't chew the cud. You are not to eat meat from these or touch their carcasses, for they are unclean for you. Of all the things that live in the water, you may eat these. Anything in the water that has fins and scales, whether in seas or in rivers, these you may eat. But everything in the seas and rivers without both fins and scales, of all the small water creatures and of all the living creatures in the water, is a detestable thing for you. Yes, these will be detestable for you. You are not to eat their meat, and you are to detest their carcasses. Whatever lacks fins and scales in the water is a detestable thing for you. The following creatures of the air are to be detestable for you. They are not to be eaten. They are a detestable thing: the eagle, the vulture, the osprey, the kite, the various kinds of buzzards, the various kinds of ravens, the ostrich, the screech owl, the seagull, the various kinds of hawks, the little owl, cormorant, the great owl, horned owl, pelican, barn owl, the stork, various kinds of herons, and the hoopoe and the bat. All winged swarming creatures that go on all fours are a detestable thing for you, except that of all winged swarming creatures that go on all fours, you may eat those that have jointed legs above their feet, enabling them to jump off the ground. Specifically, of these you may eat the various kinds of locusts, grasshoppers, katydids, and crickets. But other than that, all winged swarming creatures having 4 feet are a detestable thing for you. The following will make you unclean. Whoever touches the carcass of them will be unclean until evening. And whoever picks up any part of their carcass is to wash his clothes and be unclean till evening. Every animal that has a separate but incompletely divided hoof, or that doesn't chew the cud, is unclean for you. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. Whatever goes on its paws among all animals that goes on all fours is unclean for you. Whoever touches its carcass will be unclean until evening. And whoever picks up its carcass is to wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. These are unclean for you. The following are unclean for you among the small creatures that swarm on the ground: the weasel, mouse, various kinds of lizards, the gecko, land crocodile, the skink, the sand lizard, and chameleon. They are unclean crawling creatures. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. Anything on which one of them falls when dead will become unclean. Wooden utensil, article of clothing, leather, sacking, any utensil used for work. It must be put in water, and it will not be and it will be unclean until evening, then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, whatever is in it will become unclean, and you are to break the pot. Any food permitted to be eaten that water from such a vessel gets on will become unclean, and any permitted liquid in such a vessel will become unclean. Everything on which any carcass part of theirs falls will become unclean, whether oven or stove. It is to be broken in pieces. They are unclean and will be unclean for you. Although a spring or cistern for collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches one of their carcasses will become unclean. If any carcass part of theirs falls on any kind of seed to be sown, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and a carcass part of theirs falls on it, it is unclean for you. If an animal of a kind that you are permitted to eat dies, whoever touches its carcass will be unclean until evening. A person who eats meat from its carcass or carries its carcass is to wash his clothes. He will be unclean until evening. Any creature that swarms on the ground is a detestable thing. It is not to be eaten. Whatever moves on its stomach, goes on all fours, or has many legs, all creatures that swarm on the ground, you are not to eat them, because they are a detestable thing. You are not to make yourselves detestable with any of these swarming, crawling creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean with them. Do not defile yourselves with them. For I am Adonai your God. Therefore consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am holy. And do not defile yourselves with any kind of swarming creature that moves along the ground. For I am Adonai who brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Therefore you are to be holy, because I am holy. Such then is the law concerning animals, flying creatures, all living creatures that move about in the water, all creatures that swarm on the ground. Its purpose is to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, and between the creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Chapter 12. Adonai said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel, if a woman conceives and gives birth to a boy, she will be unclean for 7 days with the same uncleanness as in Nidah, when she is having her menstrual period. On the 8th day, the baby's foreskin is to be circumcised. She is to wait an additional 33 days to be purified from her blood. She is not to touch any holy thing or come into the sanctuary until the time of her purification is over. But if she gives birth to a girl, she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her Nidah, and she is to wait another 66 days to be purified from her blood. When the days of her purification are over, whether for a son or for a daughter, she is to bring a lamb in its first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or dove for a sin offering to the entrance of the tent of meeting to the Cohen. He will offer it before Adonai and make an atonement for her. Thus she will be purified from her discharge of blood. Such is the law for a woman who gives birth, whether to a boy or to a girl. If she can't afford a lamb, she is to take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, the one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering, and the Cohen will make atonement for her, and she will be clean." Chapter 13. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, "If someone develops on his skin a swelling, scab, or bright spot which could develop into the disease, Zararat, he is to be brought to Aaron the Cohen, or to one of his sons who are Kohanim. The Cohen is to examine the sore on his skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white, and the sore appears to go deep into the skin, it is Zaraat. And after examining him, the Cohen is to declare him unclean. If the bright spot on his skin is white, but does not appear to go deep into the skin, and the hair has not turned white, then the Cohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the 7th day, the Cohen is to examine him again, and if the sore appears the same as before, and it has not spread on the skin, then the Cohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the Cohen is to examine him again, and if the sore has faded and hasn't spread on the skin, then the Cohen is to declare him clean. It's only a scab, so he is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads further on the skin after he has been examined by the Cohen and declared clean, he is to let himself be examined yet again by the Cohen. The Cohen will examine him, and if he sees that the scab has spread on his skin, then the Cohen will declare him unclean. It is Zeraat. If a person has Zeraat, and he is brought to the Cohen is to examine him, and if he sees that there is a white swelling on the skin which has turned the hair white, and inflamed flesh in the swelling, then it is chronic Zeraat on his skin, and the Cohen is to declare him unclean. He is not to isolate him, because it is already clear that he is unclean. If the Zeraat breaks out all over the skin, so that, as far as the Cohen can see, the person with Zeraat has sores everywhere on his body from his head to his feet, Then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that the zarat has covered his entire body, he is to pronounce the person with the sores clean. It has all turned white, and he is clean. But if one day inflamed flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. The Kohen will examine the inflamed flesh and declare him unclean. The inflamed flesh is unclean. It is zarat. However, if the inflamed flesh again turns white, he is to come to the Kohen. The Kohen will examine him, and if he sees that the sores have turned white, then the Kohen is to declare clean the person with the sores. He is clean. If a person has on his skin a boil that heals in such a way that in place of the boil there's a white swelling or a reddish white bright spot, it is to be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine it. If he sees that it appears to be more than skin deep, and its hair has turned white, then the Kohen is to pronounce him unclean. The disease of zarat has broken out in the boil. But if the Kohen looks at it and doesn't see any white hairs in it, and it isn't more than skin deep but appears faded, the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. If it spreads on the skin, the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is the disease. But if the bright spot stays where it was and has not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the Kohen is to declare him clean. Or if someone has on his skin a burn caused by fire, and the inflamed flesh where it was burned has become a bright spot, reddish white or white, then the Kohen is to examine it. And if he sees that the hair in the bright spot has turned white, that it appears to be deeper than the skin around it, it is zarat, and it has broken out in the burn, and the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from zarat. But if the Kohen examines it and sees no white hair in the bright spot, and it is no more than skin deep but looks faded, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine him. If it is spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from zarat. But if the bright spot stays where it was, and has not spread on the skin, but appears faded, it is a swelling due to the burn, and the Kohen is to declare him clean, because it's only a scar from the burn. If a man or woman has a sore on the head, or a man in his beard, then the Kohen is to examine the sore, and if he sees that it appears to be deeper than the skin around it, with a yellow, thin hair in it, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a crusted area, a zarat, of the head or beard. If the Kohen examines the diseased crusted area and sees that it appears not to be deeper than the skin around it, and without any black hair in it, then the Kohen is to isolate for 7 days the person with the diseased crusted area. On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine the sore, and if he sees that the crusted area hasn't spread, that it has no yellow hair in it, and that the crusted area is not deeper than the skin around it, then the person is to be shaved except for the crusted area itself, and the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine the crusted area, and if he sees that the crusted area has not spread on the skin and does not appear to be deeper than the skin around it, then the Kohen is to declare him clean. He is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the crusted area spreads after his purification, then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that the crusted area has spread on the skin, the Kohen is not to look for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the crusted area's appearance doesn't change and black hair grows up in it, then the crusted area is healed. He is clean, and the Kohen is to declare him clean. If a man or a woman has bright spots on his skin, bright white spots, then the Kohen is to examine them. If he sees that the bright spots on the skin are dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. He is clean. If a man's hair has fallen from his scalp, he is bald, but he is clean. If his hair has fallen off the front part of his head, he's forehead bald, but he's clean. But if on the bald scalp or forehead there is a reddish white sore, it is zarat, breaking out on his bald scalp or forehead. Then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that there's a reddish white swelling on the bald scalp or forehead appearing like zarat on the rest of the body, he is a person with zarat, and he is unclean. The Kohen must declare him unclean. The sore is on his head. Everyone who has zarat sores is to wear torn clothes and unbound hair, covering his upper lip, and cry, "Unclean, unclean." As long as he has the sores, he will be unclean. Since he is unclean, he must live in isolation. He must live outside the camp. When zarat infects an article of clothing, whether it is woolen or linen garment, on the threads or the woven in parts of either linen or wool, or on a hide or an item made of leather, then if the stain on the garment, hide, threads, woven in parts, or leather item is greenish or reddish, it is an infection of zarat. and it is to be shown to the Cohen. The Cohen is to examine the stain and isolate the article that has the infection for 7 days. On the 7th day he is to examine the stain. If the stain has spread on the garment, threads, woven in parts, or leather, whatever its use, the infection is a contagious zarat, and the garment is unclean. He is to burn the garment, threads, woven in parts of either wool or linen, or item of leather having the infection, for it is a contagious zarat, and it must be burned up completely. But if when the Cohen examines it, he sees that the infection has not spread on the garment or in the threads, woven in parts, or leather item, then the Cohen is to order that the article having the infection be washed and isolated for 7 more days. The Cohen is to examine it after the stain has been washed, and if he sees that the stain has not changed color, then even though the stain has not spread, it is unclean. You are to burn it up completely. It is rotten, no matter whether the spot is on the outside or the inside. If the Cohen examines it and sees that the stain has faded after being washed, then he is to tear the stain out of the garment, leather, threads, or woven in parts. If it appears again in the garment, threads, woven in parts, or leather item, it is contagious, and you are to burn up completely the article that has the stain. But if the infection is gone from the garment, threads, woven in parts, or leather item that you washed, then it is to be washed a second time, and it will be clean. This is the law concerning infections of zarat in a garment of wool or linen, or in the threads, or in the woven in parts, or in any leather item, when to declare it clean and when to declare it unclean. That is the reading for this week. Again, you can join me every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time for Coffee and Scriptures here on the YouTube channel, and I do a reading like this every Friday evening. With that, may the Father bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Prince of all Peace, Yeshua HaMashiach. God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.